Yo, Mandem podcast episode 198.
Let's go. We're back.
Let's go. Yes, we're back. I'm doing an intro today because we are a man down, but we've got a replacement.
Worthy substitute.
We'll find out.
Yeah.
We've got some time. We've got some questions. We're going to interrogate the hell out of this kid and figure out what he's all about. But
We'll come back to it at the end, I guess.
Yeah.
We'll have an answer.
We'll give the review. But Mike, Dan, how you boys doing?
Yeah, man. All good,
Bless,
bro.
man.
Another week. I say the same thing every week, I think.
Say it, Mike. This one, it went kind of fast.
Yeah.
Went kind of fast, you know. Another week gone by just like that.
Yeah.
A couple more weeks until outdoor sports.
Which is big.
That's what I
for
keep
all of
telling
us.
myself. Get another week closer to that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that, man. I need to get back out on the field or the court.
Yeah. Start claiming them W's again, man.
Yeah,
Say the court.
Or the court. Because the fellas know I'm about this basketball life as well. And
Were you when we played last year? Were you on whose team? Were you on my team? You were on my team.
my team won, innit? My team won. Layups are nice. Layups is crazy.
Wait. Whose team was it? Mike's team or Dan's team?
I
I
know
was
that.
capo, innit? I was
My
capo.
team
So.
won.
I was capo. I was actually capo because man was saying it's Mike versus Nim. So
Oh, you're Cleveland. But you didn't want to play on one-on-one after, innit?
no, I done like a 10K that day. Ran all about like it's true. Like
So outdoor sports, yeah.
It's-
It's
yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking for
what you lot saying?
decent week. Slowly getting back into the swing of things. Approaching, I guess, a return to work. It's been a great year. I think on Tuesday, so the day after this is released, it would have been a year since we were sent home from
Bro,
the office.
that's an unreal stat, you know.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
Crazy. What a mad year it's been. But yeah, it's been a whole year since we've been at home. So yeah, I'm just making the most of just the free time I have on furlough because it's not going to last forever.
Yeah.
But we had a full storm. I think last week the weather looked amazing, and then this week it's been kind of trapped.
Yeah, there was one day the
hurricane?
sun was
A hurricane?
out. Yeah, it must have been, bro. It must have been because one day the sun was out, and then the next night I've gone bed, and I'm like, nah, what's going on outside?
Crazy,
windy.
cruise ship. But no, all in all, good week, man. Good week for me, man. Health and
You
wealth.
saying, Liz?
Yeah, decent week. Been busy week, so I haven't really caught up with, I guess, Mandem. But what I will say, having had a busy week, and then last night, kind of went back to chatting in the group. It kind of took the stresses away from the week.
Oh yeah,
Just
because Les has been ghost this week.
Just Mandem busting joke, Mandem being silly and Mandem being Mandem was good fun. But yeah, so I'm moving house on Monday. So just been
Look at Joe.
so just
Joe's
been
thinking, house parties. When restrictions are done.
so yeah, so
Light bulb,
just been sorting that out during the week and trying to get my head in a space to do all that moving and all that back and forth. But outside of that, can't complain, to be honest.
We didn't even plan it, but I've just seen your jumper.
Oh yeah. Got
You know,
the
hat
gifted.
and that. I fuck
the
with it, you
gifted
know.
hoodie on. Yeah. The hats
Shout
are
out
nice.
them,
The
man.
hoodies are nice. So shout out to gifted, man.
Come on.
Yes.
But let's introduce our guest this week.
So we mentioned we got a replacement for Rich, a man sitting in for this week's episode. We've tried getting him on the podcast for what we've been doing. It's 4 or 5 years now. I think we've tried every single year to get him on. He's slipped and slid.
There's always a birthday, christening, bar mitzvah.
He's dropped the shoulder, step off his feints, then he's dodged us. I think one time we even caught him. He jumped on. I think this was like earlier this year, last year. He jumped on, not realizing that we were actually gonna like start recording the podcast. When you realized that we were gonna do the podcast, he said, "Nah, I'm out. Not today. Not today.
Hard to tie down.
Yeah. We finally caught him like a rare Pokemon. We have brother Joseph on the podcast. Thank you for joining us today. Just give the people a little intro about yourself, and I guess why you're on the podcast today.
All right, Joe. My name is Joe, or Brother Joseph. You could call me that too. I don't even know what guys I'm on here as, but I guess I've known these lot since I was a teenager.
Of course.
So I've been a friend of the Mandem for a long time, an avid listener, obviously. So here to hopefully, just come in and carry on that. And then I guess been involved with an organization for like 10 years now. We'll be on Borders, maybe talk a bit about that. And then anything else that kind of comes. I was listening to the podcast last week, actually, thinking we might as well get a bit of Meghan and Harry chat in here, because I know that I'm very, very opinionated on stuff like that too. So just here to kind of just upgrade from rich, longer hair, all of that. But
he was getting complacent, so you gotta show him how to step it up.
But just
last week, we said we weren't gonna. I think Les and I said we wouldn't watch it. The exclusive
big.
Harry,
I called
Meghan,
man out on that still.
Oprah
I
situation.
didn't watch
Les
it.
didn't watch
Oh,
it.
you didn't?
I ain't watched it either.
I was watching West Ham Leeds, and it was on in the background. But
Oh, is it?
yeah.
I don't.
But you lot have seen it though, isn't it? Like,
I've seen it.
I've seen the highlights.
What are your takeouts from it? I guess for those of us that have seen it, I don't think it was as explosive as it could have been. I think a lot of it is stuff we know or assumed already.
It's mad. On reflection, like if it was just a normal family or just a normal celebrity family, you'd be like, oh yeah, cool. What they said is like calm, man. But because it's the royals, obviously it's like, So
Calm
like,
in what sense? Like,
not calm. I mean, like it's not been like it wouldn't be like breaking news. Like, X person says that Y is trapped in their family.
And I don't speak to my dad
because it's the royal family. Like you'd be like, pretty normal family. Like,
I think the biggest take up was the thing about the complexion of the child.
Yes,
being a concern. A lot of people were saying in a few groups that I'm in and seeing online that this is something that happens in a lot of families. People say, who will the child take after? Will it have your chin, your nose, your ears? But
it wasn't said like that, innit?
I believed it to be something totally different. There's a bit more malice.
More of a negative tone.
It wasn't, I wonder if he's going to have your eyes.
Definitely not. Like, you can't take the context out of the family, innit? They're like a family who've been, obviously, without naming conspiracies, Diana and Dodi, they had problems with that. Let's not say they killed them, but like they had problems with it. And in history, racism has been the one thing we can definitely say they've done in this world, isn't it? Like everything else, you kind of debate it, but like they've been pushing that.
Joe, it's funny you say that.
And what's his name? What's the husband's name?
Philip. Yeah, he's got history.
He says he's been saying bare things like throughout. Like, was it when he went to like the Asian awards, business awards? He's like, another thing, like all your cousins are here. It's just like this guy's been racist, like so. That's just like that's just the family culture. Like, so but my thing more is, you see in like obviously I did history in it. Like I studied history, and in history these things. It's almost like we're like living out a history book, like the prince has eloped and moved across and it's like some bullshit story, like. But I think, and then the other thing is, you know what? Sometimes I might come across a bit insensitive here, but fuck it. Like the sympathy being thrown out for Harry, about being cut off and them things, I just find it like just bare misplaced. If I'm being honest, like everyone's like suddenly like, oh man, I've got so much sympathy. He lives in an 11 million pound house, like no, he's been cut off.
He's
from
good.
What like from like the wealthiest family in the world, like that's that's not really getting cut off. Obviously, him experiencing what he experienced is very valid and whatnot, but I don't know, man. Like,
his cut off isn't everybody else's cut off.
And I think if you don't want to be a part of it, like that's so cool.
Yeah. I wonder like because I guess obviously when it first happened in the group, man was saying, insurance policy. And the way my brain works, I was like inclined to just believe that straight away. But then when I've looked, they've been doing interviews, podcasts, like I'm interested to see what their next step is. Like, are they trying to become the new Kim and Kanye? Like, you know, but them lot. I just think it's bare misplaced, and I worry why, like, as a society, people are so quick to empathize with like the most elite. And then if I brought that same story, I think as Dan was alluding to, just from ends, like everyone will be like, yeah, fuck that. I don't care. Like,
so yeah, it's mad. People were saying that they don't believe that the royal family are racist, and then I think William was questioned. He was doing some sort of like appearance, and he said the family is very, very much so not racist. I just feel like
William said that.
Yeah.
I need to see that clip.
That there's an allure around the family, and people don't want to kind of face up to what they're seeing.
Even that what he was saying in the interview, where he was just like,
and it's a shame.
Dan's froze.
I definitely
Dan cutting out for you lot there.
That, as Joe said.
You're cutting out a little bit, Dan. But yeah, go on. What was you going to say, Mike?
No, I was just going to say, even like in the interview, he was saying, they could be having like a shit day, be bare upset. But as soon as they step out, the cameras are out, bam, it's like actor mode. You got to go into role mode. So already, like, if you read between the lines, just saying like, what you see isn't real. Does that make sense?
Yeah. They have, obviously they always
they've got the image in it of being all cool, everyone's all pally and cool. But obviously he's saying no, it's not that. That's all a front, like.
Yeah.
I saw some poll. I can't remember what newspaper.
Which is sad. That's sad, by the way.
Yeah. But I feel like that's the case for any celebrity couple. When you enter the limelight, you kind of know you're always being watched and whatnot, innit? But I see some poll and it was comparing Harry's approval ratings by the British public. And after he'd done the Nazi thing, he had like, they were like, Harry next prince. He was like the highest. And how he's like, I was like, what a way of like, an indictment of our society, bro. Like, a man wears a Nazi uniform as fancy dress, everyone's like freedom of speech, he should be prince. Gets a black wife, has like a bloody lightest skinned black baby I've ever seen in my life. Everyone's like,
it's still too much.
Yeah, like he can't be here, like example and all that.
Yeah, I don't think it was as I said, there weren't as many fireworks as it was billed to have. But yes, a bit of an expose altogether. As we said, the next play, I wonder what it will be.
Did you lot think he was going to free up a name?
It seems like it's going to be a celebrity thing for them.
Let me.
You sang cutting out for you lot as well, yeah?
Yeah.
I didn't think he'll throw out a name, Mike. I'm a little bit with Dan in that. The reason I I'm not too fussed and bothered about anything them man really have to say. It's all celebrity stuff, innit? But I didn't think they would free up a name, because then it kind of ruins there's no longevity in, I guess, keeping that a secret. So then eventually when that name comes out, or that story about a particular person comes out, then that's when everyone will again gravitate towards, I guess, whether it's an interview or that Netflix series or whatever it is they do next. It's just keeping that story going, isn't it?
In like real life, I hate when people do that. I hate when people do that shit. Like, they'll say something, they'll tease you, then you'll be like, oh yeah, go on, and then be like, nah, I can't say it. Like, why say it in the first place, innit?
That's
Elijah.
It's very annoying. Just don't tell me.
I was thinking like, so cool. She said something, then he's come on in it maybe like half an hour later, and they brought it back up, and Oprah's like, can you say who? He's like, I'll never reveal that information. Like,
I feel like
you just freed it up. Like, what did you think was gonna happen?
But I think like Les's point, true in it. He kind of hooked everyone in with that. It's like almost the beginning of the sitcom.
Yeah.
But also, like, a part of me thinks he rates, from what I saw, obviously I ain't seen it in it, I've just seen clips in it, and you can never really get a full picture, but he rates Queen. Like he proper rates.
Oh yeah, he does.
And that's like love, which he almost like, it's like unconditional in it. Even if she's treating him like shit now, he's like, I can't. I feel like he just don't rate Charles, and he will hot up Charles when the Queen dies, if she ever dies.
Yeah.
I think he'll hot up Charles. I actually think he will.
Maybe they didn't have a bad word to say about her.
Not one.
No. Yeah, when she was like Meg was like, they went out and she was cold and that, and the Queen like put a blanket over her and that. Like,
I do feel like though, because the Queen's the head, you can't really chat shit about the head. The head will get everyone. You can chat shit about the little minions that hang around her and the little the kids and the sons and whoever, but the head, you got to be careful how you word it.
Respect
doing an Oprah interview, raining on your gran.
She's coming for man like it's wrestling, fam.
Yeah.
Everyone seemed to be obsessed with the institution. Does anyone find out who that is yet?
What, the firm, fam?
Oh, the firm.
Omega was in it, but he got replaced by Nature.
It's 90s New Yorker, bro. No, but you see, I think that's honestly, that's a mistranslation, fam. Yeah. You see, for us, when he said the firm, we started thinking what Mike's thinking and Mafia, but actually, he's just a posh youth, and they call companies the firm, innit? And so he was like the head of the firm, and I was like, yeah, that's what a posh youth would call a company. Is like the head of the company or the head of the. So I don't even think he was alluding to it in like a conspiratorial way, innit?
Everyone just needed to get their jokes off on Twitter and all that.
Yeah, but also it's just like it fits with the narrative of like lizard conspiracies and all that David acting in it. So
you got an issue or you're feeling down, you have to go to HR, fam.
Yeah.
What? I'm like, nah, that's mental.
That's it. That's very, very strange. But I guess it's one that we'll watch this space and see how it progresses and whatnot. But all in all, a little bit of light entertainment on a Monday night. One story which I guess has gripped the nation, it's gripped me, and I didn't even know much about it until this week, was the, I guess, murder of Sarah Everard. Totally like a shocking, mad, sad
came out of nowhere
story.
Yeah, so messed up.
You know her?
No, I said so messed up.
Oh, I thought Leslie knew her.
No, so it came out of nowhere.
Yeah,
crazy story. With what Dan was saying. I think it was on the news, kind of circling. It wasn't a main story. Just a woman went missing. I think it might have been Monday or earlier in the week. And then the story just, the story just progressed and seemed, which we know now, just to get worse. And I think the most recent is that they found her body somewhere, and they've arrested
Ashford.
Yeah, they've arrested a police officer. And so many topics that have come off the back of it.
Yes. Bare topics, Liz.
Yeah, one that was standing out yesterday was I think curfew for men. I think it turned into a hashtag as well.
I think that's ridiculous. Personally.
That was crazy.
It is when you for face value it's a bit silly. But then I think, as people have been saying, the idea behind it is to get men to think. So I think some people have said, women shouldn't be out or don't go out after a certain time. So I guess they're flipping that narrative and saying, well, if you want us to do that, well, why don't we say men can't go out after, I think it's 6 p.m. or something. All in all, I think that's a silly thing if that's what people are trying to propose or bring forward.
It's silly. We briefly spoke about it last night, innit? Yeah, okay. Dan, go on. You made a good point last night.
Yeah. If you are up to any nefarious acts and you want free reign to carry out these nefarious acts, and you know that all men are inside and it's only women on the road, that is like a prime time for someone with
it's silly.
And I don't think something so blanket. I think it's quite knee-jerk as well. But I do agree that there is kind of a conversation to be had about I guess attitudes towards women.
And we've spoken about it enough times on here as well. we spoken about. Go on, I'll let you finish, Dan. Then I'll go.
I think Dan's
no, and I think it's time for attitudes to change.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was just saying, with stuff like, because there was a lot of stuff like we saw all the pictures and stuff going around and all the quotes yesterday. And then there was the one where it was like the WhatsApp message, text me when you get home and all of that.
Yeah.
And we spoke about stuff like that all the time, about like man hounding down girls and all of that, and being in a club and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's something that we've been very aware of, innit? But yeah, there is, like you say, Dan, there is definitely a conversation to be had.
Yeah, I feel like it's like the conversation's just carried on, innit? For the last few years, is like I've noticed the turn in the way like men's expectations of each other and like you know, phrases like toxic masculinity, for example, didn't exist when we were young. Yeah, but I guess my thing is more what happened to her is proper bad. Obviously, I don't even need to say that. It goes without saying. And the response has been like, it's almost like a needle moving in it, like shifting consciousness, and people being like, you know, man are coming out and saying things and be like, we need to do better in that. But you see, for me, you see the whole police officer angle.
That's quite mad, isn't it?
Yeah, like I'm actually kind of interested to see like what, because I was reading yesterday, police officers are like some of the biggest culprits of like domestic violence in this country. Yeah.
Okay.
And you know, like how much did him being a Fed play
help
to that?
Yeah.
Like,
well, I guess
training.
I guess it would have helped massively to begin with, because I don't know if he approached her as a police officer, but assuming if he had, that would have, everyone trusts in some capacity, or is supposed to trust the police. So yeah, I guess it would have helped in quite largely in whatever happened.
Also, his training, isn't it? Like they're trained to like restrain, to take people away. Like I feel like, but I don't think that's ever gonna get put forward, innit? IPCC will come out and just mental health thing. And, you know, he was this, that, not representing police, but actually, that I reckon the police training, the status of the police played a huge role in that. I don't know. There's also rumors that his wife was involved or something as well. No,
bro, she's been released, but I think that's what they do in like cases like this. You grab everyone, and then just release people as soon as you can. But yeah, it's just a shocking story. But yeah, things like and there's conversations around like women walking home at night, and some men saying, "Oh, I'm not going to change the way I act, like because I am innocent." But I just think like it's about being considerate and making others feel comfortable. Like little things like that can make like such a huge difference, and it's not asking for much for you to slow down or cross the road or and I think it's similar to the race conversation that we were having last year, where some people are just so ingrained in what they do, like I've always whistled at women when I'm on my building site, or tooted my horn when I'm driving past young girls. Like, why should I change? Kind of like it's not done thing. And even with it goes back to the Meghan Markle thing. I think on Loose Women there was a clip and one of the panelists said, "Oh well, I don't think it is racism. It's more like, you know, the casual racism from the older people."
Oh yeah.
It's kind of like an acceptance of like, this is how it was, this is how it shall forever remain. No, like progress definitely.
It's that saying, my parents used to hit me and look how I turned out. And I turned out fine. It's
Why do you not think like? I'm very interested in. You see these people that come and give these like, you know, whether it's in the masculine men thing, will be like, you know, it's cool, you know, we do that. It's not, we're not going to do nothing like, oh, it's harmless or that's just how they are. Why do you think that is? Do you think they're like, they want to protect their right to just be dickheads, or like, or is it genuinely like from a good place? Because I can't work it out. Because when a blind spot gets raised, I always feel like, you know, like with that Sarah Everard stuff, I was like, I always thought I was quite aware of that stuff, but there was stuff that I wasn't even aware of that I got made aware of in it. And I'm like, okay, cool. You know, maybe I can be a bit different like here, or I can, you know, move like this here. But some people like, it's just like defense. Like,
people just don't think about the bigger picture, innit, Joe? So like they think, it's cool, I'm just doing it, it's a banter or whatever, or it's a minor to me. but they don't think about the other person, innit? So they might have had that another 5 times in the last 15 minutes, which then makes them feel like, they can't go to the shop round the corner at a certain time or whatever, because they might get whistled at or whatever it may be. So I don't know. I just think people don't actually think about it enough, bro.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people aren't considerate as people think other people are, if that makes any sense. Simple things like walking behind, it's late, it's dark, walking behind a woman on the street. We've all walked behind women when it's late, but I've done it times after work, and I've thought to myself, although she's not given any hints as to, there's someone walking behind me, I've just thought, she might be a little bit on edge because I'm walking behind her. So then I've like crossed the road, or I've walked slowly, so there's like a bit of a space between me and her, just to kind of make her feel more comfortable. And I like to feel like I'm a considerate person, whereas I think some people just aren't, and that's where I've always done this, so why am I going to change it now? That's being inconsiderate and not thinking outside of
you just don't want to make someone feel uncomfortable, innit? I've been so aware of stuff like that, you know.
Yeah, same, Mike, same. And so now, and like Joe said, there are certain things that man might do or have done normally and just not really thought about it, but then you've seen posts and people talking about it, and you think, I've done that, but maybe I should think twice now before I do that again. But I think, Joe, I think it comes down to people just consideration, really, and people not wanting to back down.
I think, Joe, is basically the same I think it's people, being arseholes, being pricks. Like, it takes time to like look within and say like, I've been doing wrong, or I am doing wrong. And that's a bit of a conflict within that people don't really want to face up to. I guess, most people don't like admitting that they were wrong, or maybe they've harmed or upset someone. So I think it is a bit of pig-headedness, stubbornness, and
it's like, what was it, the podcast a couple of weeks ago titled Unlearn? You got to unlearn their stuff. I think as men,
yeah.
I used to say this in the Mandem years ago. It weren't popular, but I used to be like, now I think man would be much more open to hearing this. But page 3, innit? No, but I feel like my first interaction with women that weren't my teacher or my mum came from page 3, like, and I was 7. And we all did it, right? We used to go to the barbers and flick to that page, and it just, whether like I like it or not, the seed that got planted in me as like a 6-year-old or 7-year-old was that objectification of women. Women, first front page of the most popular newspaper in the country had a woman with her tits out, and then, like, it might not make a man become an abuser or whatever, but it does, I think, build just an expectation of like what women are there for, and like
it's a value system.
I always thought that was like quite mad. Even as a youth, I used to open up and feel like, this is just mad. Like, I used to do what you do, innit? I used to open it up like to pre. Even thinking this is mad, because then on TV they're not showing all of that stuff like in certain times, but you could at 9 a.m. be opening your paper and be seeing that. Like.
I always thought it was.
But 4 p.m. they're blurring things out or not showing certain things.
Crazy, isn't it?
It
is weird.
Nuts.
Can I ask a controversial question?
Go for it, bro. That's what we're here for.
Alright, so like, might be too soon, but fuck it, you lot know me. I'm never really one for good timing. Do you think the national response, of like everything, everyone, like every Tom, Dick, and Harry has responded to this, has to do with like the identity of this woman? Like, and I asked this question: is this another like Maddie McCann, where because of who she is, what she represents, it's almost like. Right. It's almost like, not to say that it's not terrible what happened, because I need to be careful with how I frame this.
But it's like bigger news.
Okay.
It's like the longevity of the news story, the crisis of like society that's emerged out of it. Like, it's become a question of like, man need to do better.
Yeah.
Would this be the case if it was like Fatima from Hull and not Sarah, who's a professional from Brixton? And I asked this because a few weeks ago in my role, we'll probably get into what I do, like policy. I sat and I spoke to like a PR person, and she was like, hopefully she don't listen to this, but she don't be like, but she was like,
we're global, baby. They're definitely listening.
Yeah, she definitely. She was like, you got to make everyone care about your, because obviously I try and like make I work in policy in it now, and she's like, you got to make what you're doing relevant to middle class people. And she's like, no one cares about Tyrone from Brixton getting stabbed. Like, and she said that to me in the maddest way. And obviously I was like a bit taken aback. I was like, probably shouldn't say that so directly, lady, but like, thanks for the honesty. But it kind of strikes me of like, yeah, is there like the fact that like the voters of this country will be able to see their children in this, right? You know, their children. You don't think that's like played a huge role?
I think it's played a massive part, Joe. I think the fact that, yeah, she's a young, professional, white, middle class, in like walking through Clapham, like it's a story that resonates and hits home. I do think the added element of it being a policeman pushed the story a little bit further. But yeah, 100%. It's like Middle England. It's something that everyone, or the majority of Brits, can relate to. They've seen, they work with someone like that. That's their neighbour. They went to uni or school with someone like that. So I definitely think it makes the story go further. I guess, yeah, the demographic she's from are seen as kind of, I don't know, a group who have no ill will against them. She is kind of, if there was a poster for kind of a victim that everyone's going to get behind, I definitely do feel that is the case, and has helped the story go a bit further. And that's not to say it's not a shocking, disgusting story that we're all against, but I definitely think it plays a part, man.
And then like you said, the added element of the police as well,
that just adds to it.
And what do you think the kind of consequence for police relations will be? Like, do you think how, like, if you're from ends, like, we've kind of always known police are fucked, innit? Like, everyone, like, we, like, automatic, like, not that I'm not surprised, but I'm, like, kind of not surprised that more feds ain't done stuff like this, because I just know it's kind of dickheads anyway. Obviously, not every fed, but whatever. But, like, do you not think, like, now there's going to be a big questioning of police and their powers?
Not by middle class.
No. It's just going to be,
and you know,
it's going to be on him, innit? Not the Met or whatever.
Do you know what's funny? And I'll answer your first question first, Joe. I woke up this morning and I was thinking about the story, and I did think, would this be different if it was a black woman, or if it was, I don't know, someone of a different background? And I would repeat what Dan said. 100% helps the push of, I guess, the stories that they're getting out there. And I noticed that, again, and this is me nitpicking on certain things, that her, like, they would blow up her picture full size on a TV screen. You don't really see that. Maybe it's just me not really noticing. So it does seem like it is pushed a little bit more, and it's been the only thing that's been on the news from, I think, the start of this week till now. And I'm probably sure it will be for the rest of the week.
And heavy on the socials as well. So
heavy on the socials. In regards to the police thing, I don't think it will change. I was going to say something, I've forgotten what it was. It's weird that you don't hear, there's no narrative of it being a policeman. Everyone knows it's a policeman, but there's no narrative of we can't trust the police now, or
people are waiting to see where they're going to go with that, innit?
The police can't be trusted. You're here to supposed to be here to help us and blah blah. It's just about men. It's just about. It's just about
that's what it's gonna
in
be
general,
in it,
and it so much to the point where I know I heard policemen on Monday, but I weren't sure because of what I was reading with policemen and then so on. So I had to like triple check and say it was a policeman that did this, right? Or is suspected to have done it, and it is. But it's weird that no one of the tweets, the posts, everything. It's covering men in general, and it needs to be spoken about, don't get me wrong, but there needs to be a lens on the police. There has to be.
Which is mad, you know, because when we was talking about the curfew thing, and we were saying it's mad because if there's wrong ends out there, they're going to view it as a perfect time. But what we're saying is that, just have the women out there just with the police.
The police, but they're...
That's mad.
A policeman is the man that's suspected to have done it. So I found it weird that him being a policeman or police in general aren't being questioned or quizzed, and they're not being asked questions. It's just
where's the governor?
Blanket statement as just men.
And you see, for me, that's what I was kind of alluding to initially. Is like the thing that needs to come out of this is every Fed needs to have a body cam. every single one ever. Like, and if you don't see a fed body cam,
he was off work though, Joe, I believe.
Was he off work?
Yeah.
He finished his shift. He worked at the US Embassy and was, I think, an armed policeman.
I'm sure. I know he was armed. Yeah.
Even more sick, or adds more of a twist to it. But yeah, body cams. Yeah, I'm here for that. But yeah, he was like off duty, man. Which is just shocking. But yeah, Les makes a good point that the light is the analysis is on men alone. And not the group another group that he is assigned to. But I was speaking yesterday with Dom. Go on, Joe.
The head of the police. I was thinking the head of the Met is a woman as well, isn't it?
Crest of the Dick. Yeah.
And she's obviously not really. It's interesting. They're just not gonna use this. Like, obviously, it can become a moment, like, where reform takes place and we start to question the training of police officers, like the relation with communities and all that. But I don't think they're here for that still. No.
It's going to be focused on men, I believe. Yeah.
It's individualized, isn't it? Go on. Sorry, Dan.
Yeah. I was speaking with Dom yesterday and basically saying that it's more of a society thing. And I guess the value, importance we put on women and how they are objectified and whatnot. And I think it goes back to even like school and whatnot, like things like slapping bums and shouting at girls across the playground and this and that. And there's just a massive thing, I think, in our society which revolves around sex and just everything's just sexualized and women objectify, some women objectify themselves and whatnot. It's just a massive I don't want to call it. I'll call it an issue. which needs looking at, and there's not one thing that sorts it.
No, you're right.
It starts from young, man. I feel
100% starts from young. 100%.
Which is mad.
Joel, you mentioned about we're going to get into what you do.
Enough of you asking us questions. Let's ask you the questions.
Tell us. You said so. Football Beyond Borders. Who are they? What do they do?
What do you do?
We are. So Football Beyond Borders. We're a youth education charity. We also have a non-charitable arm, which is kind of being developed at the moment. But we work in schools, sort of in partnership with schools and young people. And essentially, I mean, I'll just read our mission statement because I know it off by heart, and then I can build off that. But we support young people that are passionate about football, but at risk of exclusion or disengaged with school in some way, shape, or form, to basically finish school, so stop them getting excluded, and we say with the skills and grades necessary to successfully transition into adulthood. And I guess I break that down simple, and then I can kind of get into other things. So when we say finish school, obviously, we work with exclusions are known to just like mess up a young person's life. Whether it be a fixed term exclusion, which is like what we're probably all aware of, like 3 days, 5 days, whatever, and then building up, or a permanent exclusion, which is, I mean, I sent a couple articles to Dan a few weeks ago, proper terrible in terms of what people talk to school exclusion to prison pipeline. So really trying to disrupt that pattern is one thing. And then when we say skills and grades, I guess been involved from FBB since the beginning, but at the beginning we weren't really we just need to help these kids, whatever, but realizing actually that the passport to like adulthood is a GCSE in English and maths. Unfortunately in our society you have to get that to be able to do anything, otherwise you just end up resitting. So we've really focused on making sure we can support those young people to get those grades. And then the skills is like the bit that I'm most passionate about, which is about have been most passionate about, is about giving young people from backgrounds like humble working class backgrounds, inner city backgrounds, the opportunity to, I call it, to gain access, insights and experience of industries that they're typically blocked out of. And so, Dan will know because I'm always kind of moaning to him in the PMs, but I used to go to agencies. I remember around the time of H&M, the monkey, and I remember it was going off in the group, and I remember I was going into agencies and I'd walk in and I'd be like, this makes sense. Like, of course no one should check this. Like, this is the whitest, blondest, palest, least diverse audience. Like, they wouldn't even think. I don't even blame them for not thinking. It's either malicious or it's ignorant, I always think, innit? And that felt like a big level of ignorance. So yeah, I made it kind of like my personal mission to give these young people support. So the way the program works is like a long-term program for 3-4 years, in class, so in school, football as well. We do like coaching. So I used to coach and deliver, and I used to like get around. And then we also offer therapy, and that's been our biggest kind of growth area in the last few years. We partnered with like a Gillette, I guess Manscaped's rivals, maybe in some way, shape, or form.
It's fine. We'll beep that out. It's cool.
But yeah, no. And then one of the things that I reasoned was I used to deliver at like pupil referral units, and they're young people who had like just been through shit. And we talk about this a lot. And I think Mandem were talking about it last week. But yeah, we were bringing up stories actually about things we went through as children. And yeah, bare of our young people, like have just mad trauma that it's just unattended to, unaddressed. It's almost like expected. Like, oh, it's okay that your friend has been, like, the amount of people you know, for example, that have been in prison or stabbed, like, ain't normal. It just isn't normal. When I went into the world of work, I was like, this shit ain't normal that I'm aware of this. And then I went back to schools, and you're like, you know, Monday morning form room chat. It's like, oh, did you hear about you got stabbed by and it's like, you realize that's real life, innit? Like, and you get, until you get a bit older, till you kind of see that. And then obviously there's a massive link between like poor behavior in schools and then like difficult home lives. And more time, what we say at Football and Borders is behavior is a form of communication, not a trait that this kid's bad or good. It's like this kid's acting out or is attention seeking, So let's try and understand what's going on. And so yeah, we basically, what we've done, probably the thing I'm most proud of, or second most proud of, is being able to like get funding to get like young men from ends who like want to do good, like youth workers, coaches, you know, people who want to give to the young people in their communities in one way, shape or form, but typically have wanted to do it but haven't been given what I would call the tools to be able to truly support them. So what we've done is been able to be like, cool, you want to come and work, commit to FBB for 2 years. We're going to train you up as a counselor, therapist, a psychoanalyst, whatever, a psychodynamic counselor. And we're going to say, you want to help these kids. We're going to give you a qualification, give us 2 years, you know, do some coaching, do some assistance. And you actually, if you want to go down that path, we know now that you have the skills and the tools to be able to actually support that young person to deal with like some of their issues. So yeah, so that's like the model is like classroom, and then like the kind of enrichment opportunities. And then I've done everything in that organization. Like I've been on the ground delivering. My previous role for the last 2 years, I was like head of partnerships. So yeah, work with like all the brand partners. We've got some pretty sick brand partners, which we're quite proud of. And then now I'm doing what I would say.
Who are those brands, Joe? Frag a bit, man.
3 of them. Yeah, I'll name the 3 headline ones. They're gonna get the plug. Obviously, the rest, they can run more P, they get the plug.
Send some of that over here as well.
Nike or Nike, as we would know it. That was our first big partnership, and probably the one that I'm like, most proud of.
Did you secure that?
Nah, I was involved in like securing it, but I wouldn't like totally claim that. I was, so the way we actually secured that was actually kind of funny. They came, so when Nike London, do you remember that advert? Like, nothing beats a Londoner, They were like trying to obviously, Nike basically decided to like proper go for London, and obviously London became this really, Hotak Skepta and them, man, made London really the #1 city in the world.
Cultural
for a period, and that reflected in the amount of marketing bucks that got thrown into London.
Marketing dollars.
Yeah. And
you really are in the industry, aren't you?
Come on. No, but also I chatted to Dan about this as well. So what you saw in that period around 2015, whatever it was 2016, was they shifted towards London, and our team became valuable in it. And they couldn't access those kids because Broadwater Farm, Angeltown Estate, they're too scared to go there. And if they go there, they don't even know what they're going to do. They're scared that they're going to make a mistake. So that became interesting. But also, so yeah, what they did was they created this campaign, which was like, we're going to go out and we're going to we're going to just go and like come to all these hoods, basically all over London. And we want to come and do a football session, and we're going to bring a footballer down. So we went to a school in Croydon, which is one of the schools that we work at, and they come down, and it was actually, I think it's Eddie Nketiah come down before he blew Mike. Proper good brother. His dad's a social worker, like proper good guy. That's why I rate him and we're backing him in a certain manner, getting onto him as a baller. Eddie Nketiah, the other guy that plays for Fulham, I think it's like, he was a Liverpool player. Ojo?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Ojo? Is that him? Might be mixing him up.
He was at Liverpool when he was younger.
Yeah, and then he went on loan to Fulham. But anyway, they come down to do this session, and honestly, it was like their coaches didn't want to be there. They were just, they were the Nike Academy. If you don't remember the Nike Academy thing that they used to have. They disbanded the Nike Academy. They're like, if you want to keep your job, come do community work, innit? And obviously they weren't happy. And then my colleague Jasper, who's like the main founder of FBB, it was a proper shit experience. They didn't listen to anything that we said. They made the kids wait out for like 6 hours in the cold, like brought all these boots and kit, put the kids in them, and then at the end we're like, yeah, give them all back. And obviously it was just a bit like they used our children or our young people and the relationships we have with them to create a marketing moment that was in London, cool.
Yeah.
Old tight Jasper, he went for a meeting with Nike and was just like,
got his damn dash on.
Bro, he stuck it on them, innit? And they ended up bringing down the head of community at the time, or head of London. And obviously he just stuck it on them, and they were like, all right, cool. We were like, tell us how we should be working. And then coincidentally at the time, I pitched for some projects to like other brands. So something called City of Nations. And that was where I came into it basically. And I created basically, and then Nike ended up taking it and like running us some money, which obviously wasn't actually what it was worth at the time. We learned that over the time. Some dead P. When we found out from like an agency, they were like,
You start from somewhere, innit?
Yeah. So for us, you know, it was, we have this philosophy, and it's like one of our like old school 10 commandments, like under promise and over deliver. Like,
we have that one at work.
Yeah, and like I do that, and basically, if it's the first time I'm doing something with you, I'm gonna make you think we're the wickedest thing. And so they ran us like P for, and I came up with this concept called City of Nations, and it was basically this idea. And I think I chatted to Dan about this at the time, where I was like, brands don't sell crap no more; they sell purpose, innit? Like they sell anti-racism, they sell gender, rainbow. So I was like, let's get some purpose in. And then I remember like being like, I'm gonna go in now and like sell purpose to these brands, and like be like, I can be that creative, purposeful person that you guys don't really have, and I also have credibility. And we basically created this project which is about celebrating multiculturalism in London during the World Cup, using the Nike football shirts, getting young people to talk about what it's like to live in a city of nations. So Nigerian British, Portuguese British, French British, you know, and all that, and create some content. Go on.
Didn't you design a top or something like that? Am I making that up?
Yeah, we did the white t-shirt campaign as well. That was part of that, which was around the England shirt and like getting young people to like create their own. But anyway, we created that, and we just thought it was a moment, which was quite sick. I was just very proud, like working with Nike, and then I walked into Nighttime, and I just saw everything we created, like as their World Cup campaign. And I guess at that moment, two things. I was like, number one is like feeling a bit of fulfillment. Like that was a place, man, I used to just window shop in Nighttime when I was like, and then like it's a bit of a museum in it for like prep and whatever. And then the second thing was like realizing, bro, we're onto something here, innit? Like we're actually onto something. And then we went back, pitched for another idea called the Utility Sessions, which was like another project we did around like the Air Force One utility release, and then getting young people to do these projects. And it was like a sick kind of week-long activation. And then we ended up negotiating a partnership, and now we've got like a 3-year partnership with them, which spans across like different regions and different kind of areas of the organization. But yeah, just that, and then Gillette and PayPal are 2 other main partners basically.
Just to go back a little bit, Joe, how long has FBB been going for?
Basically,
you said you've been there from the start with a few other people.
Yeah. So I guess there's like 2 little kind of chapters or narratives of FBB. So when I was at uni, got into the football team, the first team, and like the first day, I was like just chilling in this change room, and this Jasper was like come up with this idea of like, he's like, oh, what to do? It's like the uni I went to is like bare political, innit? And obviously, and he basically come and he's like, I want to do this thing with football. Like, I want to bring this football team to do good in the world. And basically, then what you lot probably remember back in the day, we used to travel and like do work, like and go and work. So I've been to like Ghana, kickball there, and did some community work, did stuff in Egypt, Palestine, Jordan, and Syria, and then like the Kurdish region in Turkey. And then they've been to other places and whatnot. And then, so we used to do that, fundraise. Obviously, some man used to like donate peas, shirts. Mike used to give man bare shirts. Honor with me. And that was just sick, like realizing that, like, I guess what I look back at that is we probably didn't do any good, yeah. Like realizing that, like we were just turning up in a foreign country, thinking like we were gonna do anything. But actually, it was sick for me, innit? Like kicking ball in those places and like learning about the world, and it opened my eyes to like so much stuff. But also made me realize that, like, probably for the first time in my life, that I could create something and actually achieve it, if that makes sense. And I don't know if I hadn't have met those people, if I would have understood that so early on. You know, in my life, it's always been like work towards this thing that you've kind of been told to work towards, if that makes sense. So that was sick. But then actually what happened in 2011, the riots took place. And then we also like I got a bit deeper into my studies and realized about like things like neo-colonialism and how like charities actually can create kind of different, similar colonial patterns to what we saw with like missionaries back in the day who come in to a country and they're like, yeah, God is going to save you. And it's like, nah, bro, like, we know what we need. Like, you don't need to tell us what we need. And so, you know, going to like Ghana or Palestine and like imposing my value systems or thinking that me being there was enough. And so we started to question that kind of principle, but at the same time, looking behind me and seeing the ends just burning and kids, you know, almost what I mean, when I go back to that, my Twitter back then, you know, it was basically saying people are crying out for help, innit? More than anything, this is a cry out for help. Like people don't turn up and burn their own ends. If, like,
missionaries coming in from these other countries to come and help.
Exactly. So I think there was a conscious decision at that point to flip back to London. And so we started working in youth clubs, and I went away at that period. You lot will know, I went to like study in Egypt for a bit and then came back, went to Sweden to do my master's, and then came back, and FBB had kind of like established itself. Jasper and Jack had like found it now and made it a charity. And then I worked for a year elsewhere, and they were like, yeah, come. I was volunteering kind of for free in that time.
It's a Triple J thing. Joe,
Jasper, there was a period where it was bare J's, like Joe, Jack. There was like two Jack. There was two of every name actually. There was two Jaspers, two Jacks, two Joes. Obviously, we got rid of every
got rid of
the best one.
Got rid of the
best one, basically. But yes, then decided to refocus, and that was like 2016, 2015, working in schools. And when I came in full time, we had one school project, 12 young people, 15, 20 young people, and now we're not trying to claim this for me. There's obviously bare people. We have like bare staff now, but yeah, we have like over 1,000 young people, 3 regions in the country, over 50 school partners now. So
yeah, that's why it's not just London, isn't it?
No, we work in Essex, a little part of Essex called Basildon, and then the Northwest, which actually, which kind of, it's a good segue because obviously ends is bad, isn't it? But when you go to some of them places up there, like you really see deprivation, like and deprivation where it stands alone, like there's no aspiration surrounding the desperation. It's like if you, I always think, like for example, a place called Blackpool, man know where Blackpool is, but like it's got like, so the average rate of exclusions in the country is 1 in every 1,000 kids get excluded permanently. In Blackpool, it's 30.
That's mad.
Which is like, that's like basically you're a teacher, a whole class is getting excluded. One of your classes is getting excluded. A whole class, like top to bottom. Which is and like they so we're growing at the moment, and looking to expand to a new region. Can't really announce it because it's with another kind of big partner to come live, but expanding to another part of the Northwest, big football city. Can't say much more than that. And you notice up there that the need up there is different, but also, and that's not to take anything away from London, you know. Kids in Haringey, kids in Camden, kids in Islington, like they're facing real stuff as well. It's just up there, it's a different conversation. And as well.
Joe, you mentioned the exclusion to prison pipeline. It's something that like I learned more about, I think, in probably the last 2 or so years. And it's something that is bonkers and something that like we don't see probably a link with, like, if you in school where people get excluded and it's just like, oh, he'll be back in a couple of days, or you grow up a bit older and, oh, mate is in prison and he's not in prison for doing this and that. And it's something that's like actually an established thing. Can you like explain what it is, how it works? And I guess
so it's actually like, it's a very American phenomenon of like, there's like a massive link that there's bare literature and bare academic work done on it in America. And in America, it's like, a lot of the time, most schools in the hood in America have a Fed. And a lot of the times, the first arrest a young person gets in America is from
the school.
Yeah. And so they fight in school and then they're criminalized in the school system. With us, it's a little bit different. And I feel like I have to qualify that because I think anyone who knows it will be like, oh, you know, you kind of can't really use them interchangeably. But the thing here is basically, it's I guess there's like a few ways of looking at it. Number one, there's the kind of processes at play which lend themselves to that kind of like pathway. So number one, so like what we see here, I guess if you look at it retrospectively, when you go into youth offending institutes or prison populations and you look, there's like 6 organizations that do this. I'm not going to say the direct statistics because I don't know them off by heart. There is a significant majority of young people or people in prison that have been excluded, over 50%. I know that for a fact. Yeah, so it's like, cool, retrospectively looking at it, you're like, okay, cool, a lot of these young people get excluded and whatnot, from a lot of these people get excluded from school. Secondly, there's like a big thing about like reading age in prison. I think the average reading age is about 12 or 11 in most adult prisons, which basically, you know, like correlation, not causation. In this case, it says that like there's a link between like failing academically at school and being excluded. But when we go into the processes, it's like a young person basically, like young people that get excluded essentially come from certain backgrounds. Like, number one, the biggest risk factor to being excluded is having social and emotional mental health issues. And where that's meant to be a case for support, it actually becomes a risk factor. So where you're like meant to be coming to school knowing that you have like social and emotional deficiency and you need support and you're going to get that support, it's actually, you're coming to school 14.6 times more likely to be excluded than your peer without that. And then the process is basically what we have. And I think I was talking to, I can't remember who I was talking to about this, but like we have this kind of system whereby schools are like, the first thing they draw for is to like get rid of deviance, right? So we start from a position, when I go back to the idea of like behavior as a form of communication, they start from a position of like, we need to fix this child, not that we need to understand what's going on with this child. And we've basically, so where the school to prison pipeline, where it's like kind of grown is that over the last 10 years, this Tory government has like cut the shit out of everything, right? Except for their veterans. And one of the biggest kind of like areas of society that's been cut has been schools. And if you're a school head teacher, you know, you have a choice between Mike, the maths teacher, or Dan, the behavior support person. You're going to get rid of the behavior support person because maths is probably much more of a priority. So what we've had is a big withdrawal of support from schools and funding to support these young people. There's been a big push to be like, the government, Gavin Williamson, Nicky Morgan, Michael Gove, there's been this massive push from education ministers to be like, we need to improve behavior. And actually the problem with these kids is like that they have low standards. It's not that they come from mad homes. It's not that you know, they come from terrible economic situations or all these different things that might be playing a part. It's like they need to be better. Like, and the only way we make them better is by having higher standards and much more discipline. And what that's led to has basically seen a rise basically. So like 2006, we had like quite low exclusions. And now we've like risen like way like double basically. And we've seen like basically exclusions have gone up by 40% in the last 3 years. And so that kind of combination of things. And then what we have then is once kids get excluded, they end up in 3 places, right? Number one, in homeschooled. And we have this mad phenomenon of like, they're just twanging parents to sign papers to homeschool their kids. And like, I've seen this firsthand. And when they're homeschooled, if your mom and dad are working, whatever, who's out and about, from 9 to 3, like who you gonna link on the streets? Like everyone's at work, everyone's at school. You're gonna link probably like not the kind of people you would want your child to be hanging around with Monday to Friday, 9 to 3. And so they end up in that world. But then the big thing for me is we put them into these things called pupil referral units or alternative provision. And basically, alternative provision costs the taxpayer, I think, 4 times as much. So it costs 6K to educate a student, or 5K is what the government pays a school to educate a young person. And then it costs about between 15 and 25K to educate them in a pupil referral unit. But once they go into a pupil referral unit, the outcomes that you get, 1% of students come out of a pupil referral unit with a pass in English or maths. And so, as I was saying, I was saying to Dan, is like, there's no other business in the world whereby I tell you, yo, I've got this solution
the 1% return
4 times as much and gives 65 times less outcomes. It's prison, innit? And it's baby prison, and we've got to name it what we've got to name it. It's the exact same, the same kind of thing that's got taking place, which like we put minor offenders into prison for 3-4 years with man who stabbed people and whatnot. With the idea that we're going to rehabilitate them, and why we have over 50% reoffending in this country. It's like, it's 2 broken systems that lend themselves to each other. The cynic in me says this is all by design, right? Like,
what do you think, like prison industrial complex,
bro?
Like a new version.
Get me, G4S. Like, there's incentive to imprison more people in this society. Like, people can make money out of it, and so obviously I probably won't stick my neck out in Parliament and say like, you know, this is what's going on. But you know, a part of me does think that's going on, and so yeah, you have basically these 3 kind of processes kind of taking place at the same time, and then the big one as well is just like, I had a kid who was excluded on the eve of lockdown, and no one chatted to him for 6 months. He didn't have a school for 6 months. Like, nothing. He just chilled at yard, played PlayStation. Like, or I hope that's what he was doing. And it's almost like these kids become like the prison population. Like, no one really cares about them, innit? And
just
like,
fall away, and you're just in the abyss.
It's called like, there's like a thinker called Lisa Marie Cacho. She's like a real G, and she calls it social death, innit? And she's like, basically, some people are dead in our society, and it doesn't matter what happens to them. And she says they live in states of exception, and basically they're like people that live in places where like their human rights and their humanity isn't important, and actually they need to be acted upon and like quarantined almost away from society. And it's the same for prisoners, you know, and like refugees, like when they put in them detention centers. And for me, it's like, the risk factors which are supposed to be supporting you end up actually, you know, we just like, the state is there. It's like, we know that if you're young, black, or Roma, Gypsy, and have a social, emotional, or a special educational need, you're probably going to get kicked out of school. And like, this is a progressive country that we live in, where like, you know, we're going around bombing the world to like, you know, fix their countries, and like we've got this kind of phenomena going on. And so,
So Joe, you just mentioned that you had someone that was out of school for 6 months. As someone that is part of Football Beyond Borders, how do you, it might not be you personally, but how do you guys as a charity get that person back onto, I guess, out of that societal death and back into, I guess, societal reality and back on track to improving their life?
Yeah, so I guess like first and foremost, like our bottom line, if you want to talk in like corporate sense, is keeping these kids in school, innit? And we basically create like a case review takes place as soon as a kid gets kicked out permanently from a school, and we look into it. We're like, what could we have done better to support them? So like, that's like the big thing. It's like all our resource goes into keeping them in, because we know what happens when they get kicked out. However, obviously it does take place that kids get kicked out and put into whatever. And I guess what we try to do, I guess on one side, the stuff we're doing to keep them in school is that kind of like, you know, the educational support. A lot of the time they want to, you know, they love FBB. We've managed to create a model which has made it like kids rate it, like whether it's because of the sense of belonging, whether it's because of the opportunities, and just being a young man turning up in a night tracksuit to a school. Kids are going to be like, I want to be involved in whatnot.
So I need one of them tops, by the way.
I've been asking, man. I've been asking.
Your top, I got your top ready, mate. It's here. We never blinked up before again.
We're not young enough, man. We're not young enough.
But flipping, when I get my socks, there's in it.
I'll get them. I'm moving in it, so stuff's all. It's all.
You do that moving in and shout me.
I got you.
And then. For me, and then I guess like what we do, one of the big things we do, which I think like one of the things that when I was delivering is like being a representative for that young person.
Okay.
Because what I'm able to do here is speak the language of those school leaders, right? And I know, like, there's 2 cases. I'll give you a sick case actually of like, there's a kid that goes to a school in Ends whose like parents are nominally middle class. They have middle class professions, is white, whatever, and he is on the spectrum, yeah. And then this other child, they go to the exact same school. Both got excluded on a Friday. The boy from the middle class background came back on the Monday, yeah, quick time. And I was like, what happened here? Like, I was like, we need to look into this. Chatted to the head of year, and he was like, the mum rang the school on Friday and was like, before you exclude my child, I want written evidence before the end of the day on Monday for everything you've done to support my child to not exclude him. Because he's on the spectrum, they have to basically prove that they've done everything. And exclusion is the last. But actually, a lot of our parents and families, and they don't have the kind of like the grasp of the system.
Confidence. It's
Do you know what? You know, I think I mentioned it a couple episodes ago, and Dan will know. And if you've read it, the book Outliers references something similar.
That chapter, I know the chapter.
You know the chapter I'm talking about.
I
think they used the
doctor.
Bingo. The doctor as an example, and the 2 families, and one on the way there, the parents like, when you get there, make sure you ask the doctor questions. Anything you want to say, make sure you say it. But then you got the other family that sort of not teach, but instill the don't speak if they're speaking, unless you're asked to ask questions. Don't say nothing. Be quiet. And to your point, Joe, I get that's where you're going with it, but that chapter always pops in my head. And even as an individual, you kind of see, as you get older, you kind of see, that has a play in how you turn out as an adult. But yeah, sorry, Joe, sorry to cut you off.
No, that's one of my favorite chapters in any book ever.
It's so
because
sick.
It breaks shit down, and it felt very real to me, innit? Like,
massively.
We teach. It's interesting, innit? Like, I don't know, I can't speak for all communities, innit? But immigrant communities teach compliance, innit? They're like, this ain't home. Let's just do what's right. You know, I remember the first time I went home and I told my dad I got stopped and searched. I was fuming. And man looked at me barefaced. Like, he's like, "What, you got nothing to hide, though, have you? So what are you moaning for?" And I was like, "Well, nah. Like, why did I get stopped and searched?" Like, and his whole thing was like, "What are you moaning for?" You know, my dad grew up in Africa and in Sierra Leone, and he's like, "Back home, like, you're lucky police don't beat you up." Like, I'm like, you have to bribe them. Like, they stop and search you. And I'm like, so we come in this kind of like, and I agree with you in that regard. I think it's definitely a class thing, in it, in terms of like, how do you instill that confidence in the young person to challenge authority? You know, what's the relationship to authority? And that kid ended up coming back to school. The other boy ended up in a pupil referral unit, right? And we know what happens when they end up in pupil referral units. But for me, there's a big thing in schools which takes place around like misunderstanding behavior. And so I had this teacher, or a SENCO, so special educational needs coordinator, basically say to me, this young black boy was just acting normal because he's like that, and how that's how young black boys are when they're a bit bigger than everyone. They're hyper. And I'm like, nah. Like, I was like, there's about 30 other young black boys in this class that ain't acting like this. I was like, we need to. And like, he ended up. I put it in like this article that I wrote. He ended up like, they refused to like put him through for support. Basically, when you identify an issue with a young person, you could put them through to something called CAMS, which is something mental health support, adolescent something. See, that's terrible that I don't remember the C. But adolescent mental health support, and they were like saying, nah, black people don't like therapy, or that was what she said. And then she was like, oh, you know, this is normal behavior. Our behavior policy is meant to fix them. The youth ended up taking out a knife on a family member. Police come and arrested him. They've screened him when they've arrested him. Lucky our therapist had made a social services disclosure a week ago, so they were aware. If he hadn't had that disclosure, he would have been on a youth offending team. And for me, it was like, a lot of these teachers are just like coming in afraid of these kids, or unsure how to understand particular behaviors and how to tap into that behavior, right? And so a hyper boy in year 8.
Shout out to you guys for that work, though.
It's very cold, man.
I was going to say, Joe, do you think the training of like teachers, and is there training? Is it representative? Like, is, I guess, the teaching workforce, is it representative?
So I think there's like a few things that have taken place which I can like think. I think number one, I've never done teacher training, so I'm speaking secondary here, I tell you what, my boys who've done teacher training, who work for us, will say the teacher training element, the behavior management element of the course of teacher training is the tiniest part.
Okay.
So straight away, you're like a 26-year-old, you're Lisa from Dunstable, and you've come to Brixton, and all you know about Brixton or Edmonton is what you've read, seen. And let's be clear, our communities, we're kind of loud, innit? Like ethnic communities are a bit more expressive. You know, we
vibrant.
Like we come to my family dinners and that. My dad's I shout, innit? That's why I shout. We shout, fam, and we get excited and like, you know,
over here,
you know, and like there's all these things that can be easily misunderstood and misinterpreted as like different, like threatening and whatever. And so there's that element of like the teacher training being shit. Number two, of like people being shipped in. And so we have Teach First, which I shouldn't be too critical of because they're one of our partners, but fuck it. Like they basically have created a corporatized system of bringing in like graduates into teaching for 2 years, right? And so if you're a graduate from anywhere, you apply for this thing. It's like a fast track teaching. And the idea was that like you get like the best graduates from the country before they go on to work in the corporate world. They do a few years in schools. And so you get these like temporary people kind of getting shipped in with this view that they're coming in for 2 years. Like they ain't got a desire to embed in the community. And it's basically made teaching this like factory line occupation. And actually in the best countries in the world, teaching is a community like undertaking. It's like you embed, you understand, you know, you It's
more of a vocation, like as opposed to
like some stopgap before you get bloody this bank or Shell or whatever, which is how Teach First market. And then you've got the final part, and this is the one that I'm like into at the moment. It's simple matter of fact, it's an unrepresentative workforce, and then there's just like not really this desire to understand what's taking place. And so, for example, you have these like, I went to a policy kind of roundtable about 1.5 years ago, and it was basically about like underachievement in Caribbean boys and white working class boys, And I remember going there being like, it's kind of booky, like to just be to linking these two groups, very disparate groups in our society. One experiences quite a lot of what you call racism, like, you know, and the other one experiences, I guess, much more classism, like in what, and actually the issues going on in white working class communities are issues of generational rejection of education, for example, where like dad's like, fuck it, at 15, mate, you'll be out plumbing with me, you're gonna make more money than anything, mate. Like, which is, you know, whatever. And then you've got stuff in our communities where like it's actually the stuff we were talking about with bias and like, you know, a child coming in with an afro comb or like wearing a grey tracksuit, suddenly they're like, well, I think he's gang affiliated. And then you're like suddenly scrutinizing this young person. But I remember going to that event and it was too sick. It was like the Black Teachers Alliance we're taking over in it. And they came in and they just started spitting, right, and going hard. And one of the things that like white teachers try to draw for is unconscious racial bias, which like is a true thing, but it's a cop-out in my opinion, innit? It's like, it's not unconscious. There's like conscious racialized dynamics in our society that we need to address for people to understand kind of like why this is happening. Does that make sense? And it's like, and like, you know, for example, conflating the issue of like white working class boys and Black Caribbean boys and underachievement in school basically takes away the racial element of those boys and what's going on and how they're being treated.
Like, Joe, you know, it strikes me as a bit all lives matter.
I never thought about it like that. But
I did, and I see it rising in popularity and in like media as well about white working class boys being bottom of the pile and things of that nature. But there's issues which I guess were around prior which still haven't been addressed. But it kind of puts the initial issues on the back burner when you add the whiteness to it.
And when you talk about unconscious, it makes it seem accidental, innit? And it's like, it is accident. Like Mrs. Anderson is not a fucking racist. Like she's not like, you know, Pitchfork.
Stand-up member, BNP.
But she is also, she lives in a society that like frames certain behaviors from certain people in certain ways. And therefore when she comes in, her value system is
skewed.
Hated. Joel, you've told us about some of the great things that FBB do when you're in schools and whatnot. How has like lockdown affected that?
Lockdown lockdown, yeah, I mean, it's been a bit mad. We're actually back in schools from Monday. So that was like a good sign. Initial lockdown was mad, bro. Like, we've been victims of the uncertainty of this government, innit? And so you're just like waiting around. And I always use the example of Christmas. We were ready to go back to school, had done all our training, and then on the 6th hour of their first day back, they decided to cancel school. And it's like, so it was just proper messed up for us in that regard. But no, do you know what? We've been bare agile. Like, and that's what I think makes it a sick place to work, because it's like young, vibrant. We're not as big as, you know, like a big charity. We can be so dynamic and like agile with the way that we work. So early on, we took like a week where we were like, everyone needs to step back, and we went out. And one of the things that we always say is, we like young people, we put young people first, is like one of our key principles. And so we went out and consulted parents, teachers, and schools, and we're like, how can we help now? We can't come to school. How can we help? And so we created something called the virtual school, which was like just quite, I was thinking kind of sick, like where we were doing stuff like, you had your normal sessions, you had like creative projects. So like they did like a Beyond Bars project with like a spoken word artist, like just ways of keeping young people still engaged academically. At a time where one of the big things that's come out of this pandemic is like something called the attainment gap, or the disadvantage gap between young people who are like privileged in society and not those, as like, it was 4 months before the pandemic. Now it's like about 8 months. The difference. And, you know, one of the big things we try to do is make sure, obviously our community is on that kind of side of the young people. And so making sure that we could support them, whether it was homework support, passion projects, but even like stuff like, honestly, we were running FIFA tournaments, like for young people, and like getting them to like engage with like their therapists playing FIFA, and just creating all these ways of like supporting young people through the pandemic.
That's cool.
Yeah, and that was, I mean, that was proper good. And I think our staff team they proper rate young people, innit? So we'll just do everything they can. But the big thing I think we did, and without all the flipping Daily Mail press, David Beckham and all that, was we went out in the first 3 months of that pandemic and we delivered laptops and internet to kids without any hype. Like, we were simple in the fact that like, these kids need to connect. If you're a child without a laptop and without internet, shout us. That first wave, I think we did like 60 something laptops. Second wave, we did another like 40 laptops. Internet as well. And I think, for us, it's always, just trying to support these young people as much as we can.
I was thinking the other day, if we were, or I guess my household, me, my brothers were back in school and it was in lockdown, and we had to like homeschool, I don't know, I'm not sure what would have happened. We've
won PC on dial-up.
Fam. So mad.
It would have been mad.
Mum having to go work as well. Like, I don't know. I'm not sure.
Myth. You're fighting in the yard.
Yeah. But I do think what you'd be surprised at is actually, and I wrote an article on this like last week, is actually the big talk has been about like educational recovery, innit? And it's like, these kids need to catch up. But actually, for me, I'm like, let's start from the good. What have these young people have managed to like attend most sessions, become independent learners, like manage trauma, bro. People have lost family, friends, haven't been out, like the vitality of life has not existed for young people for a year. They ain't been able to kick ball with their bread, although around here they haven't been, it seems like, from what I've seen them in the past. But you know, like
don't give out your location.
But for me it's like, let's big up the children for once, and let's like be big up yourselves. You've managed to like, we've changed everything you know about the world. Like, like my little sister, she's just like, what? Do I ever have to go back to school again? What's the point? I could just work from home, like, for the rest, you know what I mean? Like, and so for me, it's like, these kids, like, we're always telling them they're like not good enough, or like they need to be better. And it's like, no, you lot are like fuss-free, have just shifted the way you moved, haven't been able to see your friends, haven't been to the cinema in a year, haven't kicked ball in a year, haven't been able to see your coach, your friend, and we hold it together.
Oh yeah. Nuts.
They've had to readjust life alongside, I guess, working adults. How some of us are working from home, they're having to, I guess, essentially work or learn from home as well.
Whilst growing in like
whilst growing as well.
I think it's gonna be interesting in the future of education though, like
Yeah, it will be. It will
Like,
be.
like people talk about blended learning, innit? Like a mixture of in-person and online learning.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be surprised if schools move towards that.
Something's gonna get to that, innit?
Who's that?
Something's gonna get like that, innit?
Yeah. Something's gonna change. I don't know what.
Hey Joel, as well, yeah. You said about you went to some event, but you guys actually put on your own events as well, innit?
Yeah.
I've been to a few of them. Very cold. I've always hit you up after, like, yeah, I'm proud, like.
Yeah, love, yeah.
They're very inspiring, man.
Yeah, the last one, the special guest, so cold. Not so sold on the location, but yeah.
Oh.
Cool.
Best stadium in Europe.
Yeah.
Best stadium in Europe.
I don't even have to ask where it was.
You gotta look beyond that. No, that was pre-pandemic, a year and a month ago, literally to the date.
Yeah, shit, yeah.
12th of February. And that was our annual showcase. And so every year, what we like to do is, bring together our whole community, basically, of like supporters, friends, teachers, young people, and like celebrate the successes of the young people. Maybe make a case for why we're important, why it's important that we carry on working. And we've just been growing, man. And last year we did it at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Ian Wright, my guy. He's a proper cool brother. Like, made me hate Arsenal slightly less than I did before. And then we also do all sorts of events. So like a few weeks ago we did an online event, which was like a roundtable discussion on like what we can do to stop excluding children at such a high rate. We've got an event coming up at the end of the month around like girls and mental health, and like how the pandemic's affected their mental health and whatnot, and how we can support them best when they come back to school. So yeah, man. The Ian Wright, obviously, just proper brother. We've got something coming up with him actually. 6 months or so. Yeah, can't say too much, but it'll be cold.
Joe, you've mentioned that all of the good work. What would be one of your, I don't know, highlights or
proudest?
You're proud.
I was gonna ask the same thing.
Seeing kind of come from the struggle and whatnot, and graduate.
My proudest.
There's,
I guess there's a few levels. Like, obviously, the stuff that I said, like the Nike relationship, like, and the stuff we activated with them, just because of like everything, how important Nike was to me and how like central that is to the city and whatnot, was like a big thing for me. We were like the first ever like charity group in London that they supported like that, and so that's up there. I think. Obviously, the work we do with the young people, like certain young people that I work with when I was delivered, come from quite mad backgrounds, like involved, affiliated, and like being able to see them through school. Super proud, obviously on a micro level, in it. That's like kind of like, you just know that that's one young person's life that like, up to 16 more time they would have been kicked out and whatnot. It's hard to like pick one, like a few months ago, maybe about a year ago now, like I was like a keynote speaker at like a round table, and the person sitting next to me, this is actually my proudest moment, actually, there, Simple. My master's dissertation was on like Black Muslim converts in London, and it was off the back of like the Woolwich, and how like basically, like I grew up in Ends and Bear Man converted. And I used to think like it's not some mad thing going on. People just converting because of different reasons. But then when the Woolwich thing happened, it like I was like, right, like why is it being framed as like this kind of? It was like basically bringing together of two hated communities into one identity, right? They hate the Black community, they hate the Muslims, and then suddenly a Black Muslim appeared on their doorstep, and it was like, we don't know what the fuck to do with this. And I wanted to research that. And the guy who I based a lot of my research in, so what came back from my interviews was about like education and basically young Black men being like, in education, I kind of like hated my teachers. They taught me this, And the guy I sat next to, I was delivering my speech with, was the guy who like formed most of my dissertation, in it. A guy named David Gilbourne. Yeah, I was like, I remember getting there and I seen him. Yeah, and I was like, no, I can't do this, man. And I went to this girl. I was like, I don't think I could do it. I was like, that's like, he don't know, but that's like my academic mentor sitting next to me. So there's like stuff like that, and I think there's like so many proud moments in it, because every so often, like, because I've been involved in it for so long, you kind of start to expect things to happen in it, but then when you step out of it, you're like, rah, man, like I met, obviously this ain't a proud moment, bun him in it, but I met Prince William, and there's that famous picture that obviously Mandem mean the hell out of. Every group I'm in,
it'll be this episode's artwork. We'll make sure Richie definitely gets that one.
The newest member of the royal family.
Obviously, I'm always talking one down Babylon. Just chopping it up with him, innit?
Sometimes you got
like stuff like that. Like for my mum, innit? My mum, like little things like that. You're like, obviously, I don't give a shit about him, whatever. But that sense of like, right, I got invited to chat to this guy who's seen as a really important person. So there's all these little moments and that. But the fact that this idea is just here, bro. And I always say to my friend in it and colleague Jasper, like, FBB now exists without us. We can all leave tomorrow and carry on. And that's amazing. That's also scary, that's probably why I ain't left as well yet, because a bit of FOMO. I'm like, what are they gonna do without me? Like, so I ain't really got one, but the two proudest feelings was walking into Nighttown and sitting next to that David Gilmour, and I want to say like, where I was like, shit, man, like,
that's cool.
I can achieve.
How can people listening, watching, support FBB now and moving forwards once like restrictions are lifted?
Socials, Instagram at Football Beyond Borders, Twitter at F Beyond Borders. Just follow that up. Retweet, repost, all that stuff. And then if you wanna run P's, you can obviously donate. Monthly supporters, go down on the website www.footballbeyondborders.org. I mean, come to all our events. For us, I guess there's just honestly retweeting, reposting, commenting on our stuff is like really important to us, because I think there's an important message that we're trying to put out. A lot of what we're doing is that advocacy and changing the attitude towards some of these young people and the processes in place. So
Joe, what's that Amazon one?
Mike, this guy, bro. Mike, you might as well say it, because I've kind of forgotten, bro. Like, I just shared it with the man. But it's like Hi Smile. It's like
Smile, I think instead of going on like Amazon.co.uk, I think it's Smile.
Amazon.
Amazon.
And then just register
wherever you have to type in Football Beyond Borders, so that they're your go-to charity. And then when you buy something, a bit of it, Amazon basically donates part of that, I think, you
can also do that on PayPal. I should remember. They're one of our partners. You can register FBB and like it donates £1 or something every time you buy something. And also the other one for me is actually, if there are like people in industry, people in business who feel like they have skills or experiences that could be of value to young people, especially those not kind of taught in school, if that makes sense. So like I always like Richie, for example, like he's a great example of someone in like creative industry that's typically quite hard to get into from our communities and that. So being able to offer that mentorship / masterclass session just to get kids involved and interested in some of these things and to develop their aspirations. That was also, shout me, or shout to Mandem and they'll shout me. That's it really. I should have had a better plug for us, to be honest.
You've done it justice.
You've done it justice.
Joe, I guess my last question. Start of this year, we had a policeman on the episode, or on the podcast rather.
One of your favorites, Joe.
And I had asked him about purpose. I think there are type of roles in society, like nurses, doctors, that not everyone jumps into, and not everyone has the stomach to, I guess, jump into and continue doing as a career. And then on last week's episode, we spoke about purpose. What would you say what you do now is your purpose or helps with your purpose? What is your purpose? And would you say that fits, that you can't, obviously don't speak for the rest of the team, but would you say that's why you guys are involved and do what you do?
Yeah, I mean, my purpose. I think like that question I always find mad to answer.
Because you put something in the group yesterday, and I can't remember what you said.
I mean, I said it was a bit of banter, but I would say,
of course, yeah.
Inspire,
what's this guy talking about? Yeah, I was thinking, what's this guy talking about? When you said it,
inspire, educate, and elevate, right?
Yeah.
But when you said it, although I took it as banter, there's definitely truth in it in regards to you.
Yeah. Do you know what? I think about it on maybe one step before, right? In the sense of like, I always say like, find your why. Like, why do you wake up in the morning? Why do you do what you do? For some man, it's money, innit? Like, I want to make mad P. That I did an internship at an investment bank, and I realized this world, like, money don't really, like, it matters to me. And I probably went too far, but I don't give a shit about money phrase when I was like 21, 22, boot cuts and like extra large Ralphies, and Dan telling me off and that, like,
don't wear that stuff around.
I upgraded my wardrobe for a few years. But Dan, wearing your dad's Ralphie, Joe? I'm like, shut up. Obviously, I was inspired by Yeezy, innit?
The original one. Yeah.
But as in, so for me, it's like finding. I don't know. Have you not ever heard of the phrase Ikigai?
No, I can't say I have.
All right, so Ikigai is a Japanese concept, yeah, and it's like it's like a Venn diagram of like, you know, your passion, what you can be paid for, what the world needs. And
then in the middle, this purpose.
And then in there is your purpose. Yeah, you find, and I think that I did an exercise like that when I first kind of came into the world of work, right? And being like, what do I like? What do I think? And I think for me, like, I'll give the example. So this isn't me trying to like make myself seem like I'm some like hero, but I took like an 18K pay cut to leave my job to go work for FBB, which my dad, obviously, immigrant dad, being like, you're bonkers, you like, what are you doing? You're gonna be on the floor for the rest of your life, like, is what he said to me.
Yeah.
But I think it was because I used to realize, I woke up every morning and I was like, if I had like an itch in my throat, I'd call in sick. You know, I was working, I was going and doing my job and then finishing at like 11:30 because it was so easy and uninspiring. And then I was trying to just do other things at the same time. And it was like, I just kind of reflected upon myself, like, I'm obviously not happy.
Yeah.
And what a better way to like find your happiness, or what a better time to find your happiness when you still live at home, you've just finished uni. And I was like, you know what, let me just experiment and see, right? And I think through that process, and obviously then I was able to start to find my purpose and be able to be like, okay, cool. I like, you know, realizing that, okay, I was good at this stuff. So this is what I could contribute to the world. Like, you know, for example, one of the things I realized I was good at was my ability to sit in ends and be able to chop it up with people on a level in ends, and then be able to go and sit in parliament and be able to like present that. And I was like, okay, this is a skill that I have. Like, I can translate in some way, shape or form, or use my assets to do that. Or I'm a good writer. Let me use that. All these things, right? And then it was like, what actually matters to me, and you lot have known me for a while, innit? Like, I've always had this kind of like, you know, I left uni in 2011. I went to Cairo to study Arabic, is what I told my parents. But really, I was like, nah, man needs to witness this revolution, like, on the ground. And I went to see it, and like, and it fucked me up, like my mental health and everything. But actually, I've always had this like big old kind of, what I would like to think is like a calling, not a calling, but like there's more to life than like consumption, innit? Realizing that like that there was more to life than consumption, and that's all I knew. And to like help people and like give back, I guess. And like, yeah, so I guess my purpose in that regard was like realizing that like it was that sense of like giving, in it, and like, you know, service to others, while also, you know, there is the side of me that I want to like, you know, make a bit of money and like grow and develop a status and whatnot. Yeah, I think like realizing that, and yeah, it became, you know, when I talk about the riots, for example, like that like proper got to me, because it started on our doorstep, and a lot of our friends and family were like affected by it, either because their shops got battered, or because they were the police response was like so that they ended up in prison for like stealing a bottle of water or crap or whatever. And that kind of got to me. And I think that injustice element, got to me. Obviously my background affects that. You know, I immigrated to this country from like war-torn places, and like that kind of like generational trauma has always like been inside me, right? And like this idea that like, yeah, the world ain't a fair place, but you can make the world a better place for those people around you. And I think, yeah, that's what I meant by inspire, educate, elevate, right? So inspiring young people with my story, with my presence, my commitment, you know, to tell them like, I went to Cairo when I was 21 and I lived there for 8 months. This is something you can do. I've done this, I've played here, I've done that. You know, educate. For me, education is like the biggest and most important thing in this world, like whether it's like a financial education, as like the podcast a few weeks ago, you know, lent itself to, right? It was like, you got to learn your shit, and like the only way out is to learn. And that's why like prisoners, you know, they the first thing that gets taken away from prisoners is the ability to read and research and you know, when you go back to like enslaved communities in America, as soon as a slave started to be literate, they punished and killed them, right? Because they know that like that's your way out. When you engage, and then elevate through that process. I believe you elevate, right? And I think these young people that we're working with now, we're seeing them come out and like, you know, a few playing pro football, a few are like managers of big artists in this country, a few are artists, and you're like, cool. You know, just being able to support that that system and that process is like, yeah, basically my why, right? Why I wake up in the morning, why I sit behind this desk and whatnot. So yeah, that's what I think. And I think, but your purpose can change, innit? And this is what I was like talking back in the podcast yesterday. I was like, your purpose can change so many times, right? And it's too many times people link it to an occupation, innit? And I think that's capitalism speaking its language, where it's like your output is your identity, but actually your purpose can be within your friendship group, right? Like, you know, some men are just like amazing friends and amazing brothers and sisters, and that's their purpose. I want to like support my, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, and some man's purpose is getting that dollar, bro. And I respect that too, innit? It's like, if that's what you're on, just wear it on your sleeve, get that P, and don't become a dickhead, and everything's blessed, innit? But what's you man's purpose? Let me ask that question back. Have you lot considered it? Have you ever considered like your purpose?
Nah, I think we said that last week.
Yeah,
like,
I think definitely tied to occupation, not for me.
Yeah, I think definitely considered it. But yeah, still 31 years into this life thing, and not realized or figured out what it is. But I think it's always, I can only speak for myself. It's sometimes I think you think it's got to be some grandiose thing. My purpose is to cure cancer, I don't know, build homeless shelters for everyone. It's sometimes, like Joe just said, it can just be like you're just a cold brother, or you're a sick friend, or like you're like your mum thinks you're the best son ever or the best grandson ever, or just being a decent human. I know I always say to myself sometimes, just be great, and not great and you got to achieve some mad things. It's just be great and like you said, elevate yourself, educate yourself, so you know what you're talking about when you go out into the world. And no one can tell you different. No one can ever batter you down. Just stand up tall, be great, and
be your best self, fam.
Be your best self. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
So Joe sounding like a teacher. Yeah, mine is probably along the lines of. I say it all the time, and I think I said it at the turn of the year. It's just about having the most fun as possible.
Bro,
whatever setting
that's
that is.
just what I was thinking in my head, man.
Like, when I leave people, I want them to be like, that guy, like he made me feel like today. Dan was on, he made me laugh, he made me smile. Like, we had a good time. Like, that's my thing. And I think I'm doing all right, man.
You're a funny guy. What about you, mate?
Fam, I ain't got a clue, bro. If it was to be something, it'll be similar to Dan's, though, I'd say. But also just trying to make others have as much enjoyment as I do as well. Because it's not just about me, innit? I'm on this building memories thing, innit?
Yeah, original memory builder, Mike. Still.
Mike's actually everyone's memory, but go on, Joe. Sorry.
You said that, I think, because everything's become so like, it's either like in the ends, I feel like knowledge that gets created is either down the solar energy protection, pseudo spiritualism, or everything has to matter that you do. Like, and I think, I don't know, was it the title a few weeks ago, Make It Matter or something, make it make sense, right? And I agree with that, but I'm also like, nah, man, it don't always have to make sense. Sometimes you can just be in it, and it's like, there's shit that happens that doesn't have a material outcome.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always have to. And like what Mike and Dan, I think, were alluding to, it's like, there's vitality in relationships, in experiences, that doesn't necessarily, move you up or down.
Monetary value or value, status. So yeah.
Yeah. So, where?
a decent way to end it all, man.
Yeah. It's
I hope you
a
had
good
fun,
one
though.
still. Yeah, love for that show.
Same time next week.
Richie's back in it.
Slow down now.
Shall I do my intro to the podcast or something now? Or...
Wrap it up for us.
Alright, so how do you not wrap it up normally?
We still got to do the bring-ins.
Yeah.
Music bring-ins.
So anything, Joel, you can continue to plug yourself.
I got a sick one that I found today.
For anyone watching on YouTube, where Joe gets his hair products from, because Joe's hair is normally not this long.
Nah.
But he's been growing it. But yeah, plug anything, books, whatever. Go for it. You can go first, Joe.
Do you know what? Cool.
You just said you got a sick one.
Yeah, I don't know, but I'm like, will it land properly? Like, is this the kind
don't worry about that.
Should we go round and build up the suspense, or would that?
No, I'll go first.
Yeah, go for
it. There's a website today. It's kind of mad, but everyone needs to go watch this. It's a sick documentary that I saw last night called "The Invention of White People in America."
Crazy.
The title's mad. Not to say that white people ain't real. They're also humans, but it basically talks about how like race and the categories that we understand as race were like created at a time to basically create capitalism basically, and how like the system was created. So it's called The History of White People in America, How America Invented Race. It's on this website called the World Channel, and it's like in partnership with PBS. And then I haven't got my other phone, but I would have had the music ringing, but I need to grab that off my Spotify quickly. Yeah. But yeah, that's the one for me that I watched last night. And proper effect. And then Adam Curtis documentary, BBC iPlayer. Everybody needs to watch that. The most important watch of your year, 100%.
Cold. I've got one. Something we was talking about last night actually, and I started it. I'm looking forward to finishing it up. It's a documentary on Netflix as well, new one called Crack. It's like, so it was explained to me as being like Snowfall, but in documentary version. So, yeah.
Decent. I've got a music bringing this week. It's from artists that I know me and Les listen to him quite a lot. Brent Fayez got a new single called Show You Off.
Yeah.
Which is another big tune from him still.
Cold. I've got to bring in and again something I mentioned before, but I know Dan watches it. I Am Athlete. They release short YouTube clips of the whole podcast. And for this week, it being International Women's Day. Apparently, it's a month in America. I'm not sure if it is the same thing over here in the UK. But they did a special episode which featured two women on there. One of them is Bree Thompson, and she's a founder of Spike Spin. Just a short summary, she's opened up a spin class in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. So it's in the hood, and she's kind of marketed it at obviously people in Brooklyn, Bed-Stuy. But yeah, definitely check it out. Her story is quite inspiring. And just listening to them guys, check out their other videos as well. Them guys are quite cool in what they do and some of the topics they come up with. But definitely check this one out because it highlights some of the great things that women do that we don't really tell the stories about. So yeah, definitely check that out. The episode is called HBCU Women and Black Excellence, and that's I Am Athlete.
Cold. Episode 98.
Yeah, man. Again, thanks for everyone for listening and watching. Appreciate all the listeners, all the viewers. Keep liking, keep sharing. If you haven't already,
Manscapers.
Subscribe. All the Manscapers. Shout out to everyone. I know some people
Manscaped
some things today. If you haven't, just look after yourself down there, man, because it's important. We're gonna be let out soon, and I know a few people are, ready to go. Looking forward to it. Little stayovers and all that. So make sure you're taking care of yourself down there.
Yeah, shout out them lot, man.
For sure. But
love for the invite and for having me, lads.
Yeah, love for coming, man. It's been
a while. Always a pleasure. Never a chore.
Yeah, we'll wait another 198 episodes for the next one, innit?
Come on.
Yeah, definitely, and yeah, whenever you come back on for the second part, hopefully you can bring someone else and we have a chat with them and get some more knowledge and insight into football beyond borders.
Yeah, man. See where you're at.
Love, boys.
Cold. Episode 198. Bun Richie. It's the Mandem podcast.
Keep it locked, you know?